For this photo deconstruction, I'm going to break down my cover shoot for Tomorrow Magazine featuring the talented Winnie Harlow. Hey everybody, Lindsay Adler here. One of the great things about being a fashion photographer is you get opportunities to create absolutely stunning images with talented people. That's one of the fabulous things about this job. And so this fashion editorial, I was invited by Tomorrow Magazine to shoot for one of their anniversary covers. And I was invited to photograph Winnie Harlow. Winnie Harlow is an incredibly talented model. She is a massive influence on social media. She also is a business owner. You may have seen her on many different TV shows. And so for this shoot, what I did is I prepped several different mood boards. So basically a collection of images showing different visions I could take this shoot. And so I prepped maybe 3 or 4 that I presented to both her and the magazine. From there, the magazine narrowed down to the top 2 that they liked, and then I presented to her those final 2 so she could pick her favorite one. And so the concept that we ended up with was basically something that was really warm, something looked like she was bathed in late day sunlight, but with a little bit of a vintage vibe. So everything would be all warm tones, bright glowing highlights, dramatic lighting, slices of light. And so that's exactly what we ended up with. Now for this shoot, I flew out to LA and I had the opportunity to photograph at a great studio called Dust LA. So Dust was wonderful and I got to shoot in their brand new huge psych room space. And so for this, I had to figure out how can I achieve this beautiful warm tone lighting just shooting on a white wall. Do I need to build a set? Do I need to do something more dramatic than that? Or can I achieve that warmth with my lighting and my color grading? And that, of course, is exactly what I did. And so let's take a look behind the scenes of the lighting and the stage. Now for these images, one of the things I did is eliminate all of the ambient light because I was going to be using little slices of light, optical spots. I wanted a lot of control, and that's why it looks so dimly lit in this space. Of course, it doesn't have to be like that. But I want to show you what's going on in this shot. These beautiful images that I created, I did so using only 3 strobes. So let's actually start with our main light. Now the main light was the Westcott optical spot, which of course you guys know that I designed in conjunction with Westcott. I used this to create a beautiful hard light on her face. Now the main light here, I used the kit lens, which is great for head and shoulders and beauty shots. And I had the ability to take the shutters, the leaves of that modifier and close it down if I wanted just slices of light. But in this case, I just used it as a hard light on the subject. So that is light number 1. Then what I did is I added a second light. You can see it just above where my head was here. You can see that there's another optical spot, but this time with a 24-70 lens. Now this lens is a Canon EF lens, and by the way, if you want to know more about optical spots, you can check the link in the description below. I have several different tutorials on how to use this tool. One of the things that's great about it is I can swap out different lenses for a greater spread of light. And so for this shot, on the background, I used a 24-70 EF Canon lens. And so that would allow me to create huge patterns of light on the background or a slice behind my subject. So my goal for this image is I wanted tight, maybe slice of light on the subject's face, and then maybe a slice of light behind her so that she would be separated out from the background. So that's my main light and my background light. But then there was one more strobe. And the strobe that I used is over here on the right-hand side. It is a zoom reflector, so just a silver dish with a CTO, so color temperature orange. That's giving me some of that warmth that I wanted for the shot. But then you'll see there's some other things going on here. So on the right-hand side of this zoom reflector, I have something called cinefoil, which is basically black tin foil. It's used to block or control the spread of light. I have it attached to the zoom reflector to prevent that light from hitting the background. I didn't mind if the light bounced around this space, but I didn't want a bright highlight. Again, it's a white background, so I don't want it to become a distraction. Then in front of it, you can see that there is a black flag. So this is a Matthews flag, like a 24-by-36, and this was used to block the light from hitting the ground right in front of the subject. Instead, the rim light would create more of a slice of light. So in other words, every single one of those lights, those 3 lights, are all creating slices of light, but in different ways. So the flag in that case was blocking the hard light to create a slice in front of the subject. Now on a wider shot you can see that effect, but a close-up you wouldn't see it. Instead you would just see it as a rim light. So you have, of course, the 3 lights here, the cyc wall in the background. But let's talk about my camera. Here I was shooting with the Canon R5. This is my go-to camera. And then I was shooting with the 24-105. So if you guys see me shoot a lot and my breakdowns, you know that this is one of my go-to camera lens setups. This is really important because I didn't have too much time with Winnie. I wanted to make the most out of my time. And so I didn't want to be spending a lot of time changing lenses, especially when I wanted to change focal length. And so 24-105 gives me the range. Now you'll notice from the camera settings, I was shooting at f5.6 and ISO 800. Here's why. For the aperture, I didn't need to have the background out of focus or in focus. It's kind of irrelevant to the shot. So by shooting at f5.6, I could cast the background just a little bit soft. So there wasn't quite as much information. So it was a little bit narrow depth of field. But you'll notice I was at ISO 800. Why would I be at ISO 800? Well, first of all, when you test these mirrorless cameras and these newer digital cameras, you can shoot at high ISOs and still have really, really clean footage. In fact, I have a YouTube video where I was shooting at 20,000 ISO and I still had more than usable images. But for here, ISO 800 was important because these optical spots, the way that they concentrate light over distance is often they lose a lot of light. And so because I was trying to cast a lot of light on the background with that second optical spot from a distance, I didn't want to overheat my light. I didn't want to overextend it. So by shooting at 5.6 ISO 800, I didn't have to shoot at a really high power with those strobes. And yet the images are still super clean and gorgeous. So that gives you a breakdown of the behind the scenes, but let's go look at what was captured in camera versus what was achieved in post. All right, so this is the cover shot that they went with, and I love this image. I love the styling. I love the makeup. I had a super talented team. And what's amazing is just how perfect her skin looks in camera. She has beautiful skin, and it is also the makeup artist. It's everything together. I love just how dramatic the light is, and yet in camera it's still gorgeous. But you notice there's a major thing missing. The major thing is the warmth. Yes, we have the warmth of her skin, but you'll notice the background appears gray. And then the wardrobe she has on is white. And so I'm not getting that warmth, which was part of the mood board, which is essential to what we agreed upon. But while I was shooting tethered. Shooting tethered using a Tether Tools tether cable into Capture One. And so I could color grade on the spot. Then as the images come in, I could preview them. And so this is what I captured in camera, but this is what everyone was seeing as I am shooting. Quite different, but it's exactly what I was going for. I majorly increased the contrast. Now, one of the reasons I needed to do that is you'll see in the original shot, all of the star filters, right? All those highlights. I was using a Tiffen 4-point star filter on my lens, and that's what gives me, anytime there's bright specular highlights, it gives me that bright 4-point star. This is fantastic because she was wearing all these rhinestones in combination with the optical spot, which is super hard light. This is the perfect combination to create this sort of starburst effect. But whenever you add a star filter to your camera's lens, it decreases the contrast in the shot. It creates a bit of haze, and so you have to compensate for that. So what I did is I majorly increased the contrast. I darkened down the exposure. Then what I did is I warmed up the shot overall, just took the white balance, majorly warmed it up. And then I went in and I added more yellow to the highlights. So you can see, like, I get real close to the cover shot just through color grading. By the way, the optical spot that was on the background, all it's doing is giving me that vertical highlight behind the subject, which I think is really important because it separates her out and it creates a little bit more of a glow, which reinforces this angelic look that you see in the styling itself. All right, so what would I fix in post-processing? I mean, not much. Her skin looks almost perfect, but I was missing a catch light in the eye on the right-hand side, and I didn't like that I could see the hair hanging out of the back of the headpiece. Those are the two major things that I would fix. And so that's exactly it. Just a tiny bit of retouching on the skin and bringing that catch light back into the eye and smoothing out the hair in the back of the head. Okay, so this is a close-up shot. And you can see, by the way, again, the optical spot lower in the frame, how much it cut off, which is great because it allowed my attention to be drawn back to the subject. But I wanted to show you another shot wider so you could see what this light looks like on a full-length shot. All right, so here's what we captured in camera for a full-length shot. And what was great with Winnie is that she came up with this pose. a lot of times I'm directing my subjects, and of course I still directed her, but she was like, oh, what can we do on the ground? And then she had this jacket that when she was kind of leaning on the ground, it didn't really flatter the form. It was hiding her pose. And so she wanted to include it in the frame, and she put it underneath her, which I think made for a really interesting element, composition and depth. All right, so here's what I see. I have my optical spot that's on her that is basically lighting her face and her torso. The optical spot that I had on the background, it's what is creating that slice of light behind her head that creates separation. And then you can see the rim light that is lighting her hair, the side of her body, and that's what this slice is that you see kind of hitting her hand in the lower part of the frame. Now, by the way, in the previous shot, you're not seeing the rim light quite as much. It's still there. You see it a little bit from the side, but that's because, again, it's reflecting off of the gems. But here you can really see it quite a bit more. So everything's a slice. Slice on her torso from the main light, slice on the background, and slice across the cyc wall on the bottom. So this was captured in camera, and then I went in with my post-processing, specifically my raw processing. Now, when I was shooting this, I'm not processing every file. What I did is for the first image, I made the adjustments, then I copied it and pasted it so it applied to every single shot that came in. And so this is what we're all seeing, and it's beautiful and it's rich, and I love the results. And so what did I need to fix in post? Well, here's what I did with retouching. Smoothed out a few wrinkles on the body piece and then fixed a weird highlight on her head, and that is pretty much it. And so it really is basically beautiful lighting, beautiful hair and makeup, and then color grading. The retouching part is just fixing tiny little imperfections to take it from very, very good to perfect. I hope that you've enjoyed a sneak peek behind the scenes of my cover shoot with Winnie Harlow. Now, if you'd like to see some more of the images that I created during this editorial, I created many, many different looks. And in fact, we played around with the optical spot with different gobos and different textures, both on Winnie as well as the background. So if you'd like to see those, be sure to check out the links in the description below, as well as links to all of the gear that I used in these shots. Now, if you've enjoyed this photo deconstruction and you want to see more of this type of breakdown, be sure to like and subscribe because I have many more videos just like this one coming your way. See you next time, guys.